Hey guys, welcome back to Beach and Fishing, my site and channel aimed at everything to do with the world of beach fishing, outdoors, camping and so on. And today we're back in the office and we're going to talk about fishing line. Basically 5 steps to choosing the right fishing line for your reel, for whatever type of fishing you're doing. Now, if you're an experienced fisherman, you probably already know what type of line you use, and I dare say that you'll vary on some of the things that I use, because one of the great things about fishing is everyone has an opinion. So comment below if there's another thing that you do to choose your fishing line. But for those of you who either have a new reel that you're looking for, or the line on your reel has started to deteriorate, or you need something new, there's a few things that I look at when I'm going to buy myself some new line. And I've spent a bit more money than I should recently on reels, meaning I've done a bit of fishing line purchasing as well. So I mean, the thing with it is, there's so many different types here. These are just a few that I've dragged out of the old box in the garage there. This is some 80-pound braid, which we'll talk about in a sec. Some 30-pound braid. This one's budget size. This is an extreme budget 25-pound mono line. I've got some 8-pound fluorocarbon here, and some 20-pound fluorocarbon that I use as a leader. So even with that, there's 3 different types of line here, and all varying price ranges. This stuff was about 40 bucks for the fluoro. This was about 20. This was about 5. This was expensive. This was about 80 or 90, but there's 300 yards there, 328 yards, and this one was only about $20 or $30. So what do you choose? To be honest, the whole list in the post is a bit of chicken and egg. Which one do you look at first? I'll take one in order, but obviously there's different things you're looking at. I guess the first thing is, if you're going fishing, what fish are you chasing? If you're going out in the ocean, so if a friend of yours with a boat says we're going out in the ocean, you've got a reel there you need to spool, don't go, I haven't got any here actually, well, don't go an 8-pound line, because the minute the fish hits that, it's going to snap it off. So match the size of the line to the fish you're chasing. The bigger the fish, the heavier the weight you need. So an 8-pound line means that you could put an 8-pound sinker on that line, hold it there, and it shouldn't break. If you put a 9-pound sinker on, technically it should break. A lot of them don't, but technically it should break with a 9-pound sinker holding on to the line. Now 9-pound is a lot. If you think about that in terms of a fish, 9-pound is quite a lot. That's eased a little bit obviously by having drags on fishing reels. The rod will take some of that work off the line as well. So there are variants. This 8-pound line, when I go out with my neighbour in his boat and his son comes along, he uses an 8-pound line. He catches fish that you really shouldn't be catching on that size. So if you can manage your reel and rod pretty well, go for that. If you want to do that, if you want to use a light line, which is a lot of fun, go a fluorocarbon or a braid. So let's have a look at the line types we're talking about first, which is probably something I should have done before we talk about the fish. Mono, if you're not familiar with fishing, mono is, you can't even see that in the camera. Think of it as, even though braid was actually around before mono, think of mono as the traditional green fishing line there. So you can see that there, traditional fishing line that you always use, comes in all the different weight classes as well. And then you've got braid. Now braid is a lot thinner, and it's actually made of 4 or 5 or 6 or up to 9. So that box says bionic times 9, means there's 9 strands in the braid. And 30-pound of that, you can't see it, but 30-pound that is actually the same width as 8-pound in the fluoro. So braid tends to be a lot thinner. It, however, has no stretch. It also, it's a lot more sensitive, but it has no stretch, and it also is very hard to tie onto tackle. Because it's got no stretch, if you put a heavy weight on it and cast it, that whip of the cast, because don't forget it's 9-pound pressure. So if you get a whip of a cast with a heavy sinker, it actually could build that pressure and snap your braid. A lot of us use leaders. So you use a mono leader on your braid, because the mono line has a bit of stretch to it. If you're a beginner, and we'll talk about this later on, if you're a beginner, go the mono. But that's the difference between. Now, fluorocarbon is a more technologically advanced version of the old mono. Nearly invisible to fish, so if you're fishing somewhere where you need an invisible line, go the fluorocarbon. If you're somewhere where it's rocky and there's a bit more risk of abrasion and stuff like that, but you still want a bit of give, go the fluorocarbon. Braid is also extremely strong against abrasions and the like, so if you want something that's really strong that's going to help you fight, go the braid. So type of fish, and then probably the most important thing is matching it to your reel size. So this reel here is my little Penn Battle 3. It's a 4,000 size. So I have on here a 30 pound. I've actually got a 30 pound braid on here, which may be a little big for a 40 pound line. I've got it all twisted around because of I got the leader on there. I did it on the boat and didn't pull it apart. Anyway, I won't pull that apart now. But I've got a 30 pound braid on that for a 4,000 size line. Think of the 4. So 4 to 8 pound on that would be perfect for general day-to-day fishing, just about everything you want to catch. This is a good reel, has good action, good strong drag on it, so you could handle a 4 to 8 pound line. You could go 10 mono maybe. I've got, as I say, I got a 30 pound braid on this, which is probably a little bit big for the reel, to be honest, and it goes back to the braid that we're talking about there. What you couldn't do in this, however, is put an 80 pound line on it. Too big. So the line itself is too wide for the reel, and it's just you're gonna end up with bird's nests and stuff like that. So you need to match the size. So I've got my big ocean deep sea fishing reel here. It's a 9500. I've got 80 pound line on it. With a 9500, I could actually go up to, I could put 80 pound mono on this. I could actually go up to about 120, 130 pound braid on this reel. It's bigger, so it's got a lot more space. So it can handle the bigger braid size, which is this 80 pound here. You can actually see, even in the camera, you can see, if I put it over something black, in front of something black, how's this going? You can see the line there. Whereas if I put the little one there, it's a bit skinnier. So bigger fish, as we said before, chasing bigger fish, bigger line will go on it. The smaller the reel, the smaller the line size that you can put on. So if you're going out in the ocean, I've used this one in the ocean. It's a lot of fun, but I wouldn't. I've got a little. There you go. There's a little 1,000 size reel. That is quite a good little reel. I got that from Cabela's in the US. It's 1,000 size. I've only got like a 6 pound braid on that. Imagine trying to put an 80 pound braid on this reel. That will highlight that difference for you. I'd get about 2 yards on it and it would fill the spool, and that would be a waste of time, and it would tangle. So if someone invites you to go out fishing and you think, okay, well, the line on this is no good, so I need a bigger line, or I'm chasing really big fish, so I need an 80 pound braid, you're gonna need a new reel. So and that's what I said before, the chicken and the egg. The size of the reel and the size of the line match the type of fish that you are looking at. From there, so you've got your reel and you know the size you want. Are you going to go braid or mono? Now, the conditions can have a lot to do with that, and it depends on what you're using it for. As I said before, braid is mono has some give. If you want to cast a really long way, at the very least you'll have a mono leader on there. I've got friends of mine who like to cast in the surf, and where they fish they like to get out over the breakers. They swear by fluoro and mono. They will not use braid because they just find with that extra give, it just casts that little bit further. The difference being is that with mono, you can't get as big a poundage on the line as you can with braid. So if you've got a smaller reel, but you want to get a slightly larger weight class of line on your reel, you'll need to go braid because you'll fit bigger braid on. Most reels, for example, you can't see it here, but I'm looking at a box over on my shelf here. So for mono, it'll fit this big spin fisher, this big reel here. So the box for that, it'll fit 350 yards of 30-pound mono, or 750 yards of 50-pound braid. So there you go. So 50-pound braid is obviously 20 pounds heavier, but it will fit way more of it on. So if you're fishing somewhere where you need to give a little bit of run, so if you're trolling, for example, and you haven't got a big trolling reel, then you'll need to put braid on because you'll need that extra line. Or if you need a heavier poundage for a smaller reel, then go your braid. If you want something that's easy to use, and that takes me to my next thing there, what's your skill level? If you're a beginner, go braid. Go mono. If you're a beginner, go mono. Do not get braid if you're a beginner. Braid mono is easy to use. It's easy to tie. You can tie your tackle straight onto your mono. You don't need to worry about, so I need to attach this one here. As you can see, I've got braid there, then down to a knot, and then a mono leader. That's for a couple of reasons. A, because it gives me a little bit of extra pull when like we're catching large fish on these, and this mono is invisible, so they're not seeing all the pink line in the water. I got the braid though for the strength, sensitivity, and I can fit more on that reel. So if you're a beginner, use mono. If you're to be honest, again, the next door neighbour that I go out fishing with, he's an ex-commercial fisherman, so highly experienced. He only uses mono. He doesn't use braid at all. So there's certainly that aspect as well. And the reason being, it's just easy to use. If I get snapped off here and I've got braid, I've got two choices while I'm bad. I've got to try and tie the braid to the tackle, which will work in a pinch, but it's not as easy as mono. Or I've got to reattach a mono leader, whereas he just ties another hook on and off he goes. So there is that advantage as well. So whether you go mono or braid, in the post there's a good list of what the advantages of each of them are for. If you want to really flick some lures and jig them around, then go a mono as well. Okay, and finally, how much do you want to pay? Look, again, it's like anything. The more you buy in bulk, the better you'll have it. I'm not an advocate of spending a fortune on braids. I must admit I go middle of the range most of the time. The reason for that is I found the cheaper braids tend to, in time, most times you spool a line, you'll need a mono backing. But I found the cheaper braids after time tend to move, even with a mono backing. So I go the middle of the range. I don't go the high-end options. That said, this little line here is one of the cheapest I got at the time. It was on special. I think it was $2, and it has caught everything and anything that is in the estuary. I use this on my kayak. It has caught up to, I think, 60 or 70 centimetre flathead. It's caught a nice big brim. It's caught a couple of little river cod, and the line has not given me any grief at all. So look, I think the trick is to, if you can afford middle of the range, my opinion, and please comment below, I'd love to hear your differences on this. My opinion, middle of the range. If you can't afford middle of the range, go to the cheaper options. 9 times out of 10, they're going to do everything you need it to do. I guess it's like anything, you get what you pay for. I have bought, if you're in Australia, Jarvis Walker, they sell this at Big W. It's a budget model. I've used Jarvis Walker mono for years and years and years and never ever had a problem with it at all. And it's this is 300 minutes. I think it costs about $8 for this mono. I have, although, bought other brands of cheap mono, like $5 a reel, a roll, and the line has snapped whenever anything's gone near it. I had one on my son's rod, and every time he caught even the smallest fish, it just snapped. So you'll get used to what you can. Stick to a decent brand. Berkeley's a good brand. Jarvis Walker, if you're in Australia, is a good brand. Platypus. The guys at the local fishing shop, being a Platypus an Australian name, I'm not sure if you can get this overseas, but Cast King is one that's on Amazon, which is very popular and always has good reviews. They're all cheap. They're all budget to middle of the range lines. You won't go wrong with any of them. As I say, Berkeley, I mean, this 20-pound leader was still only $20, I think, for the 20 pounds of fluoro. So it's not expensive. So don't pay a fortune, in my opinion, and you'll be right. Okay, guys, that was my ramble on choosing your fishing line. So the main things, again, make sure it matches your reel and the fish you're going for. Mono versus braid, I mean, up to you. Have a look at the list of what the advantages are of both. But if you're a beginner or inexperienced fisherman, stay away from the braid. Go a mono at highest. Go a good fluorocarbon. And then, look, the price you pay is, if you want to stick to the budget, if you don't fish a lot and don't want to spend a lot of money in line, then don't. You'll get to know pretty quickly what's a good quality and what's not a good quality, and you'll be right from there. Okay, guys, that's it. Hope that was helpful for you. Please subscribe to my channel if you're watching YouTube. And as I said before, let me know what you think. Okay, see you soon. Bye.